Hey, this is Meridith Elliott Powell, and you know what time it is. It is 8 a.m. Eastern, Saturday morning, and time for Sales Logic. I'm hanging out here with my partner, Mark Hunter. Mark, been a good week?
Been a great week. It's always a great week. And of course, Saturdays is always special because you and I get to hang out together. And I'm sure you had a good week too, right?
Yeah. I was got caught in a couple of snowstorms with the travel, but all was good. We've got a big show today, so I will go ahead and kick us off. This is one of my favorite topics that we're going to be covering today. All right. Sorry, you caught me taking a drink. 8 a.m. Saturday morning, time for Sales Logic. Before Mark tells you what we have on tap today, I like to tell you how the show works. We start the show off every week with a question from you, the audience. So if you want to be a part of Sales Logic, we want you to be a part of Sales Logic. Just send your question to Mark, send it to me, or go to saleslogicpodcast.com. We cover a hot topic, we recommend a book, and because we want you to leave with return on investment, we have a lightning round. So Mark, what is on tap for today?
This topic is going to go for 3 hours. So get ready, people. Stick with us. Hey, the topic is how to build, leverage, and magnify your network. I know you love this. I love this topic. We're going to have some fun with it. Question comes from John Register. In fact, he's already chiming in. He's watching.
That's right.
John, this is your question. What are the best strategies for building your network? Okay. Do we have 3 hours?
Yeah, exactly. Hey, Mark, let's back that up a little bit. I know this wasn't exactly John's question, but I think it would be good for the audience. I mean, every time I say the word networking, it is as if I feel the energy just suck right out of the room.
Why?
I know. Well, you know what? I have to admit, I mean, I'm an introvert and who comes across as an extrovert. I would rather not talk to strangers. I don't like it. Like my husband, Rob, loves it. In fact, sometimes I'll be like, could we just get out of here? I don't want to talk to people. And he's completely the opposite. I'm the person that gets into the grocery store and avoids people. So it is a learned behavior for me. I think you're probably the opposite. I think you enjoy connecting and networking.
I do, but I don't. Yeah. I'll tell you what, I was on a flight the other day, and it was funny. The person sitting next to me when we landed, she made the comment, aren't you glad you weren't sitting in the seat in front? Because the seat in front, the lady just talked to the guy incessantly the entire flight. And excuse me, we're in first class. That's where it's the code of silence, okay? Please, people. And it just was driving us crazy. Here's the deal. I can turn it on and I can turn it off. And that's the thing. But here's the thing. When you turn it on, it's not about you. It's about the other person.
Yeah. I think that
is the other person.
Why does networking matter, though? In your opinion, why is networking important? And John, Bryn, you jump in here because this is like I am passionately believe. In fact, I have a whole keynote around if you build your network, it will literally change your life.
Networking is so critical. I go back to a dinner I was at probably 10 years ago in Washington, D.C., and we invited a person who I did not know. A couple other people knew the person, invited the person. Person sat down next to me. And it was interesting, but that dinner connection has wound up being minimally 7 figures in business for myself and for the other person between the two of us. And it was all because of a networking that we just, hey, let's invite a couple people we don't know. And this person sat down at the table next to me and boom, I go back to you and I, we networked at an event where we sat down next to each other. I don't know, probably 6-7 years ago. And the same thing. And networking opens up. But here's the whole thing. You just have to take an interest in the other person. And things materialize. So networking is absolutely key. Because you could be the smartest person in the room. But if nobody knows who you are, and I'm not being arrogant, if nobody knows who you are, then it's totally worthless.
Yeah, I think that I like networking because to me, it is what prevents me from having to make cold calls. If I'm well networked, really great things happen for me. Here's my favorite networking story. I talk about this from the stage, but a couple of years ago, I was playing in a golf tournament here in Asheville, where I live, with a couple of my girlfriends, and one of my girlfriends called that morning and she couldn't play. And so there were three of us going to the event. The executive director said, "We've had a young guy walk on. Could he play on your team?" We said, "Yeah, we'd love to have him." Jumps in my cart. We head to the first hole. I start asking him questions. I find out he's 29 years old. He's been sent to Western North Carolina to open up the territory. The manufacturing company has never sold up here. And I think this kid has hit the mother lode. He is just, there isn't a door my girlfriends and I cannot open in Western North Carolina. About the fourth hole, I think certainly he's going to ask a question about me, to your point, Mark. But he doesn't. By the ninth hole, I'm down to this kid's birth order. I got nothing else to ask him. And I throw him in the cart with my girlfriend, and I'm like, "You try." We ended up coming in third completely because of him. He was a ringer. I mean, he could hit a ball 300 yards. But he left that tournament never having made the connection. And here's why networking matters. Had he been interested in my girlfriends and I, as Mark said, taking an interest in who we are and what we do, I would have made a sales goal for the next 5 years. So, John, I want to get to your question, and that is best networking strategies. I'm going to say number one best networking strategy is, no matter where you are, no matter whether you want to or not, you need to talk to the person next to you. So Mark, I'm going to turn this over to you in a second, but I know you said first class is a cone of silence. And I'm silent in first.
The whole plane should be okay.
I always at least initiate a conversation with the person next to me. And I got on I've had two great stories lately. I got to tell you, I didn't want to. Thursday night, I get on the flight to go to Pittsburgh. We're delayed. I am hungry as I can be. It is going to be 2 granola bars and a thing of nuts for dinner. And I'm tired. I've been working way too much. I get on there and I said hi to the guy next to me. I could hear his accent. I said, "You're from Pittsburgh, aren't you?" We start talking. Long story short, he works for a huge construction company that I did work for years ago. I never met this guy in my life. Hands me his card. He said, "Call me. I've got an event in January I could really use you for." Then about a month earlier, I'd been flying to Hawaii. And you know me, Mark, I'd played golf that morning. I'd played tennis that morning. I get on a flight at 3:00 to fly to Maui. I'm not going to get there till 2 a.m. I do not want to talk to this lady next to me, but I do. Turns out she's the global event manager for Bloomberg. I mean, so John, to your point, is everywhere you go, be set with open-ended questions and take an interest in the people next to you.
Yeah, and see, I admit, by the time I get on a plane, I am tired. I'm done. I just want to get my work done and veg, or I'm getting on a plane to go to an event, and my head is wrapped around that event. So, that's just that. I'm normally fairly engaging. I think last night, my wife had a dinner that she was to go to, and I went with her, and we had a great time. We met some wonderful people and so forth. So, I enjoy engaging in people, but I don't try to make every situation. I think this is what I think a lot of people feel. Oh, they have to make every situation a networking event. I just say, the airplane is not where it's going to happen for me. So, hey, kudos to you. I should probably change my ways, but you know what? That is what it is. Hey, I love Bryn's comment, best business comes through introductions and referrals. It all begins with your network. And it's true, this whole thing. When you network with somebody, who can you connect with them? I never look at somebody, and I'm going to go back to the late Bob Danzig. Bob Danzig was CEO of Gannett of Gannett Media, and I'm not quite sure which division, but he was an incredibly engaging person. At the time, he was in charge of about 45 daily newspapers around the country, from the Seattle PI to the San Antonio newspapers, San Francisco Chronicle, and a number of others. He made it always the point, whenever he was in a city, he would arrange a meeting with the top most influential person in that city. Strategy. Now, of course, hey, wait a minute. He's the CEO of the publisher. Okay, he can have those meetings. But it's interesting. I had a chance to have breakfast with him. And I was just game on to sit there and ask him all kinds of questions. I didn't ask one question. He was asking me questions.
Yeah. Yeah.
He was showing more interest in me. And I go, whoa, man, was I humbled.
Yeah.
Here was a gentleman regardless of your walk in life, demonstrate extreme interest in the other person. That meeting changed my view as to how I interact with everybody from that point forward.
Yeah. Yeah. I love what Bryn, a couple of comments that Bryn has here is, by the way, it's vital that you are making introductions as well. Absolutely. I mean, when I'm listening to people and I'm connecting with people, I'm thinking about who could I connect them with? And I love that she said, add LinkedIn to the mix. I mean, Bryn is the LinkedIn expert. And the thing about adding LinkedIn to the mix, I like to me, an introduction via networking is like a first date. We're starting to get to know each other. So when I connect with people on LinkedIn, they'll see my posts, I'll see their posts. We'll start to see if we're a good fit. I also love this comment. Key to a good networker is never tell people what you do until they ask. So key. You are absolutely right. And both of those exchanges in first class and flying, they asked me what I did. I had long taken an interest in them. But Mark, I want to talk about the airplane and getting to John Register's point of best networking strategies. I think the reason I network on a plane and the reason I network on a plane in first class is that is where my target market is. So one of the biggest mistakes I see people make, I love the fact that you said not everything is a networking opportunity, because sometimes you're tired and sometimes it just isn't right. Like if I'm at a social event at our country club, I'm not networking there, even though it's my target. Those people aren't that's not appropriate. It isn't right to do that. But in first class, most people are flying on business, and that is my target market. But to Bryn's point, I'm asking people, when I sat down next to that woman who was an event planner for Bloomberg, she looked like she had just come from a big weekend. It was a Sunday night. And we talked all about that before I ever figured out what she did.
Now, I'm going to go back and say that there are times, may not be our audience. I love engaging with people who I know there's no business, because, again, maybe I can just learn something from them. Mm-hmm. Maybe I can share. Last night at this dinner, it was because of a clinic that my wife volunteers at, and there were some doctors in the room, and there were some other people in the room, the business manager and so forth. And it was just, these people really can't do it. But I was engaged because, again, maybe there are people who I can connect them to. Maybe there are people that I can add to their network. So I look at networking as just a connect the dots, and I'm putting more dots onto a piece of paper. And I love the fact if I can meet somebody, they share with me a piece of information, and maybe there's another piece of information I can add to it. And it just makes the conversation more colorful. So I'm all about just creating the conversation. If there's business opportunities, they will flow out of it. But I'm going to create the relationship first. I'm absolutely dead set on that. But anyway, we got great comments coming in. I want to probe you. Do you have some specific strategies that you use to build and leverage your network?
Yeah, absolutely. Number one is I think you need to clearly define who you're trying to network with. I mean, probably one of the biggest mistakes I make, I remember I was working with a young woman who was an investment advisor, and she didn't do investments unless you had $1 million to invest. And I found most of her networking was at the business after hours for a chamber of commerce. Most people there don't have $1 million to invest. So you've got to align that networking really, really well. The other is you've got to realize that networking is not sales. It isn't sales. That's probably the biggest mistake. I'm out there trying to get to know people, but also, Mark, to your point, I'm trying to be known. I'm trying to be visible and relevant in that community, because if more people know of me and about me, then that gives me more, definitely more opportunities. So the other is you've got to be diligent about networking. I have to put it on my calendar. I know what events I'm going to go to in a month, and I set goals at those events to push out of my comfort zone. My friends laugh at me and say, the moment you're really close to Meridith, because you see her at a conference or an event, she won't talk to you. And that's kind of the truth. If I already have a relationship with you, I'll probably bypass you to go meet somebody else and meet somebody new.
Okay, you just hit on something so key. So many times people go to networking events, and what do? They gravitate towards the people they already know.
Yeah.
So what's the point of attending a networking event? Hello? I mean, I want to say hi to them. But the objective of a networking event is to open up new relationships. And that's absolutely key. Here in Dallas, there's a number of those after hour things that I could go to. And I don't go to those, but I go to other events where there are people, and I don't want to say movers and shakers. I'm not trying to create an elite group, but there are people who, yes, these are the people who I can create business opportunities for. I didn't say that they're going to create opportunities for me. I'm saying, hey, maybe I can help them. And that's the way I approach networking. One of the things, and John, glad you're chiming in here, is getting an accountability partner. This is interesting.
I would never get rid of you, John. I love that's how we met.
I love it because I want to talk about accountability partners. I have what I call a 5, 25, 100 list. And I'm encouraging all of you to get that 5. There are 5 people who are very, very close to me. It's my mastermind group. Meridith, you're part of my mastermind group. There are 25 people who are key influencers. These are key. That person I met 10 years ago at that dinner, he's one of my key influencers. So he's part of that 25 group. And I stay in contact with these people on a regular basis, looking to try to help them. And they in turn help me. And then there's 100 people that I call my subject matter experts. These are people who I can call on, I can connect with, and so forth. And people will start off in this 100 list and then move into this 25 list. And the idea being is that I know my circle and I stay well abreast of my circle. And I ask myself, how can I help my circle of 25? I had breakfast last week, or I don't know, earlier this week, with one of the people in my 25. And the sole intent was, how can I help you? How can I help you? And this is absolutely key. You've got to have that approach. And it's amazing. Things will happen. But if you're putting yourself first into why this is why I say you don't use your network, you nurture your network. You nurture your network because you're adding to it.
Yeah, great points. I love Brad's comment. Care and compliment is a winning formula. And Bryn, once again, spot on. Authentic curiosity. You have to genuinely be interested in people. John asking a great question here. If I'm going to do a speech, what are some ways to create more relationships? Love that you asked this, John. This is so key. So yesterday, we all do the interviews before we do an event. And so let's assume somebody is on here and you're a consultant and you're going to go in and do a pitch or something. Ask to do some interviews with some people in the company. Build some, connections with them. But just yesterday, I was in Pittsburgh speaking for a division of a global corporation. And so I did 10 interviews ahead. I made sure that I told all those people we are definitely going to connect in person at the event. So, John, I set my connections up before. I met all of those people after. And before I left, I made sure that 2 of them, the CEO of the global company who was there and the U.S. division head, I walked up to both of them and I said, thank you so much for the opportunity. I'm going to reach out next week. I'd love to grab a cup of coffee and just kind of debrief the situation. So my point is, I set up those relationships ahead of time, and then I've got those connections happening after.
Now, what I like about that is you didn't say it's going to be 100 people.
No,
and this is what's key. It's a very defined list. You got to narrow your scope. You can't be a networker to the free world. It's too big. Okay.
Yeah.
But you tighten your focus. I'm going to share. Last night, I'm at this dinner. This is a healthcare clinic my wife volunteers at, and other people are there and so forth. And the question I was asking, so how long have you been associated with the clinic? And what caused you to? That was the question I led off with every person I was meeting. And what did that do? It just started an incredibly engaging conversation. And over the course of the evening, I met half a dozen people. Now, where it goes, I have no idea. But there's different levels of networking depending on the types of events that you're in. And you've got to be comfortable with any one of those situations in having a strategy. This evening, my wife and I are going to be at another event. And there's going to be a lot of people there that we know, but we also don't know. And I'm going to make it a very strong intent to connect with the people who I don't know, because I want to find out. Now, there are a couple people there that I'm going to connect with and try to build a deeper relationship with, but I want to go further. So again, define your strategy before you go into a situation where there could be networking potential.
Yeah. So typically what I do is I go into every networking event. I mean, if you're a little bit of an introvert like me, then you want to go in with 3 to 5 open-ended questions. My favorite open-ended questions at a business event were exactly what Mark said. I mean, what exactly do you do? How long have you been doing it? That's so interesting. How did you get into that? Now, what types of customers do you have? Do you guys sell locally? Do you sell globally? And then what do you like to do when you're not working? I'm just curious who you are and what you do. And then if I go around and I ask people those open-ended questions, I'm gaining a lot of information. And when I gain a lot of information, I'm trying to decide of all the people I talk to, who are the 1 or 2 I'm going to follow up with and try to have another meeting with. Because one networking event does not a relationship or a connection make. But if I ask those questions of people, I can figure out what's going on with them, what's going on with their business, where they are. And I can kind of make that leap as to who's the next person to connect with and who to build that that relationship with. God, Mark, we are burning time. We probably need to get to the book.
Yeah, but hey, I gotta share something real quick. If you're an introvert and you're walking in and you're hesitant to go to a networking event, here's the way you do this. Go into the networking event and you're, oh no, see all these people. You look for somebody else who is standing there by themselves.
Yeah.
You go up and engage with them because you know what? They're saying the same thing. Why am I here? Finally, somebody comes up, talks to me, and find the single person to have a conversation with. And that is going to help you tremendously. Yeah, we are. Wow, we got so many other things we could be talking about, but let's jump to the book. The book, Keith Ferrazzi, Never Eat Alone.
Yeah. Do you know, so my very first National Speakers Association meeting, very first one I went to in 2009, Keith Ferrazzi just came out with Never Eat Alone, and he was the keynote. He was the keynote speaker, and I just loved the book. As I said, I'm not a natural networker, but when I was a kid, I grew up in a family very opposite than most people do. My mother made me talk to strangers. She told me it was my responsibility from the time I was 5 years old. Every time I walked into a room, if somebody didn't have a friend, I needed to be their friend. And talk about pressure as a 5-year-old, but it's the greatest skill my mother ever gave me, because I just believe that when I walk into a room, I'm supposed to talk to people that I don't know. And every connection I have made has led to unbelievable opportunities. So, all right, Mark, what's the lightning round?
Okay, lightning round. Top strategies to tap into your network. Go.
Number 1, I love Mark's idea of thinking about all the people that you're connected with and really picking like this, top 20, top 25, and continuing to build and to nurture the relationships.
I'm going to say, hey, make sure that you zero in on a very small group of people. In other words, you're talking about the 25. I'm going to say the 5, like, in our 5, we network and we connect and we help each other. Ask yourself each morning, how can I help somebody in my network?
Yeah, I would say make a list of, think about those people in your network and what skills do they possess? I mean, I'm kind of thinking like what skills do they have? Who do they know? Like if I needed to know or understand something about LinkedIn, I'm going to call, Bryn. If I need to, I think about John and I have people connected that we know through the Olympic committee, but I think about all the people that John is connected to, or if I want to do something up in the Virginia area, I might reach out to Hugh. So start to think about the depth of your network and the skill sets and things that they offer.
Create a list of people who you want to connect with. When I moved here to Dallas a couple of years ago, I created this list of people, and I'm barely halfway through that list, and I've been here almost 2 years, but I'm creating relationships, and along the way, I'm meeting a ton of other people.
Yeah, I would say that, intentionally network, really think about what events you're going to and get those on your calendar. And if you know who's going to be there ahead of time, make a point to reach out to those people and connect with them.
Create a carpool lunch. What's a carpool lunch? You get with somebody else, you say, hey, you know what? Let's get a lunch. You bring somebody who I don't know, and I'm going to bring somebody I don't know, and the four of us are going to have lunch, and that's a carpool lunch, and you never know what's going to come out of it.
What a great idea! I've never done anything like that. Set goals every time you go to a networking event. You need to meet 3 people. You need to meet 5 people. Something that will push you out of your comfort zone.
Have a goal every Monday morning. What's the referral you're going to give somebody in your network? If you start off the week by giving a referral to somebody, it's amazing at what will happen.
Yeah, I love what Lee is saying here. Biggest networking mistake is only using it when you need something. That is so right. You definitely need to use it. Ahead of time. Think about how you can help your network. Who could look at your network, those people that you're staying in touch with, and think to yourself, who could I introduce them to? Who could I help them with? And how could I help them take their business to the next level?
Remember, networking isn't just always face-to-face. It is also by way of LinkedIn. LinkedIn is an absolutely terrific networking tool. I've connected with a lot of people by way of LinkedIn, and we've gone years and years before we've actually physically met in person. Wonderful opportunity.
Yeah. I'm going to say for my last one, I'm going to say that think of networking as an opportunity to build your reputation in the marketplace and to build your reputation as a resource in the marketplace. Do not expect instant gratification from any type of networking interaction.
And I'm going to build on that by saying it's give, give, give for your network. Hey, with that, we want to say thank you for listening to Sales Logic this week. If you like what you hear, subscribe, rate, and review the show on your favorite podcast app. Something we've said has earned you a single dollar. Hey, consider telling a friend, would you? Because it's how we grow when we help you grow. I'm Mark Hunter.
And I'm Meridith Elliott Powell.
Remember, when you sell with confidence and integrity,
all of this uncertainty suddenly becomes your competitive advantage.
And the sale becomes logical.
All right. You all have been amazing this week. What a great audience. All the comments will be part of the show, but go to saleslogicpodcast.com. Check out our mastermind there. We're kicking off hot for 2024. Going to make it our best sales year on record. Also subscribe to the podcast. And please, if you've got a question, please reach out. We'll feature you right here on this show. All right. We'll see you next week for another episode of Sales Logic. Great selling this week.